Um, People always ask me why I don't call myself a psychic. Really, it comes down to I hate that name. I hate that term. I think there's too much negative connotation with it. So I call myself a channeler. And really, that's what I do. I channel messages from your spirit guides and
Okay.
loved ones that have crossed over already. Gone home. That's home, by the way. Home is the other side. We come to visit here. We live over there. Um, Spirit guides. What are they? They are souls. We are a soul. Our soul embodies our bodies embodies our soul. So when we take our last breath on Earth, our soul returns to the other side. We have a spirit family on the other side, and members of that spirit families agreed to be your guide while you're here on Earth to try to give you guidance. 99.9% of the times we don't listen because we get that, you get that intuition. You're hanging out with your buddies and you get that, I know I shouldn't do this. This is not going to turn out good. I just feel it. I feel it in my bones. This isn't going to turn out good. But screw it. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Kevali Channeling Presents for February 27th. It's the end of February. How the heck did we get through January and February? And I don't even know. I blinked and it was gone. Tonight is a special night for me. I get to interview the guy that started it all for me, Ken Lewicki, from channelinginc.com. I could go on and on and on ad nauseum about Ken, but why should I do that when I have him sitting in the green room? We'll call it the green room or the waiting room. I will bring him in. Everybody, welcome to Mr. Ken Lewicki.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. It's Ken Lewicki of channelinginc.com. I'm such an honor to be here with one of my favorite people in the world, Kevin Hughes of Kevali Channeling. Thank you for having me. This is going to be a fabulous night, and I'm excited.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for joining me. I knew we had to do it just before you went on your little trip. Little trip.
Yeah.
I said little trip. As most people know, Ken is, along with his beautiful, I was going to say bride. What the hell was that? Is there something I don't know? His beautiful girlfriend, Susie, are heading off to Bali, Indonesia. They're leaving next week, I guess it is now, eh?
Yeah, like 8 days or something. Yeah.
Wow. Ken, I know you're super busy and I appreciate you taking this hour to come back. You're one of the very first people I actually interviewed many months ago. Gosh,
Yeah,
many
yeah.
years ago. I guess it was a couple of years back when we started this craziness. And I remember it vividly because I had a list of questions, and I sent you that list of questions, and then I proceeded to ask you every question on the list. And I have to say, that was the last time I did that because I hated it. I absolutely hated it because that's
Well,
not what this show is. As you
right.
know, you've watched it. It's a chat. We chat. We chat about your journey. And I know that you have taught, is it fair to say you have taught thousands and thousands to channel now?
Yeah, probably in the tens of thousands to now. Yeah. So I've been
That
doing this
is,
almost 20 years. It's crazy.
how does that, like, I can't even imagine. I just got huge goosebumps.
I know.
How does that feel to be able to say that you've literally trained thousands, tens of thousands of people? How does that make you feel?
It's actually more about changing their lives and their destinies for the positive and inspiring them to to take these spiritual skills, channeling, and really take them to next levels to make a massive improvement in their lives. And it feel like it's an honor. It really is. Like I feel so blessed to have worked myself into a position where I can do something that does make a massive positive impact in people's lives. It's such a blessing, and every day I'm just fired up to be able to do my one-on-one sessions or my weekend workshops, certification workshops, or do these things like interviews. It's like I think my third one in the last week, and stuff like that. Like I just love being able to go out there and touch people by the masses and inspire. them to do bigger things with their lives and live in integrity and change their family destiny and their trajectory on their life and on and on and on. It's such an honor. Yeah, I really enjoy it.
That's so cool. As you know, after I took level two with you, I I believe it was level two where you told us to go out and practice doing readings, and I
Yes.
is it 10 or 20 readings that you said to do?
I suggest 20 readings. The
20
reason why is
readings.
because 10 isn't quite enough, 50 is too many, but 20 is kind of that happy medium.
And of course, me being me, I went out and did like 70,
Yeah.
75 because
Kevin the overachiever. And I love that. I love that.
I literally, it, soon as it was funny because as Ken knows this story. It wasn't my idea to take his course. It was Ellison's idea to take his course, and I begrudgingly kind of said, "Yeah, okay, I'll take the damn course." And it was exactly, basically, inside. That's what my ego was doing. Was just going, for fudge sakes, I really don't want to do this, but it's the middle of COVID, got nothing better to do. We may as well do it. So I did it, and it was probably 10 minutes into level one that I realized, holy, um, this is something. When did you realize? I'm going to take you way back now. When did you first realize there was something more to being here than just being here? Oh, that was good.
That was actually good. I got goosebumps
That
when you
actually
said
came from your guides, not me or my
it
guides.
did.
That
Yeah.
was that was your guides.
When I was really young, I don't know if anyone watching this can relate, but when I was really young, I used to be one of those kids that would talk to my imaginary friends, and I'd have like my family and other adults and things like that, teasing me and making fun of me, and oh, that's just Ken, he'll just grow out of it. But what I was actually doing was talking to my spirit guides, and a lot of us do that as children. And I was also like one of those children. I don't know if anyone else could relate to this, but I was one of those children who like I would sense energies really easily. I was very sensitive. I would feel emotions. I'd be able to read people. I was like kind of the black sheep of the groups of the classes, even through grade school and elementary and stuff like that. I was kind of like the odd one out. But even though like everyone liked me and I got along with them, but I was just kind of like I was kind of like super spiritual, but not even realizing it. And then sort of what happened was over time through grade school and kind of growing up and being teased and stuff like that, that spiritual abilities just kind of got pushed out of me through so I put it on the back burner for well until I started up channeling Inc. basically, and then I was like, no, you know what, spirituality is actually really important. And then and then my whole adult journey of it rekindled, and I was like, what if I could take this to 1,000 times higher levels? And then I could go into that whole story if you want, but it's a
And we will be going into that story, but let's
yeah.
go
So
back
really
in.
young, Kevin, like really young, like right from toddler age and before, I was doing this. I was talking with spirits and guides, all that from little kid. And I think a lot of us do as children. Do you think?
You know what I do? Because
Yeah.
again, you know my story, and a lot of people have heard my story. I used to have dreams. My dad passed away when Mom was 8 months pregnant with me. I used to
Right.
have dreams that I would meet him on marble staircases in front of a big building, and we would goosebumps, and we would sit and chat. And I remember having this discussion with family members, and they're all like, "You're nuts." And then I
Yeah.
actually brought it up to my mom, who was a very, very beautiful, strict Catholic lady. I have to add beautiful because usually when I talk about my mom, I feel like I'm being derogatory, and it's not. The church was her life, and that was good for her.
Yeah.
But being Catholic, that was taboo. Um, that was of the devil. And literally, that's what she told me. And of course, I'm like, oh crap, I'm evil. So what did I do? I never talked about it again. It
Right.
didn't it didn't stop. I kept having dreams. I just never told anybody about them because ugh.
Well, and I'm glad you said that because we all channel it to some form or another, and we a lot of times just don't realize it. Like I say to my students, I'm like, "Have you ever had a time when you give somebody a message and they're like, 'Oh my God, like how did you know that?' Or 'That's so cool,' or 'That's so insightful,' and you're like, 'Where did that come from?' And you're like, 'I don't know, it just came to me.' Well, that's most likely that's channeling. So we've all done it. We all channel it some in some form or another. It's just knowing what you're doing and all that. So yeah, you like those dreams, we channel in our dreams as well.
Yes, exactly. And that was my first real memory of
Mm.
supernatural quotation marks. Something I knew deep down there was something more. So when you say when you were a child, I get that. And I get when you come into your teenage years, it's not cool anymore. You're like the nerd if you're doing this shit. And let's be honest. I mean,
Yeah,
it's different now.
it's
Back
different now.
then, it. I mean, I'm 58, so I'm going back 40 plus. Holy crap, 40 plus years.
Yeah,
Almost, yeah, almost
yeah,
50 years,
yeah.
and it wasn't cool. What was your experience as a teenager?
Well, so what happened was because again, I was highly sensitive and I felt lots of emotions and just had lots of like growing up in Winnipeg, which is where I grew up, was just a really hardcore city. It still is to this day. And a lot of gangs, a lot of drugs, a lot of violence. It was like the murder capital of the world per capita. And it is again, apparently now. So it was just a really hardcore city. So growing up there, you grow up fast, you grow up hard, real quick. Like I, was having sex really young, like 12, and I was like, or, getting girls pregnant. Like it was just crazy stuff going on like back then and, doing drugs and all that. But then because I was like highly sensitive and an empath and things like that, I had a lot of pain and suffering and struggles from childhood and just other things. And I didn't realize till afterward, but past lives as well. And I always felt like there was something missing inside of me. And I learned later that was I needed soul retrieval and other things, that my soul was actually scattered into different realities and things like that. And I didn't know why or how come, but all I knew is I tried to like mask all that pain and that suffering from childhood. And so I started in my teenage years in junior high, started turning to drugs, to alcohol, like really hardcore, not just dabbling in it, but like by the time I was, grade 11, I was like a hardcore, like alcoholic already. I was doing drugs pretty much every day, drinking pretty much every day. It was bad, bad, bad. And so I started masking all that stuff, and I was feeling these things and sensing these things, but I didn't like spiritual stuff as well. But again, I didn't, because I had no one to talk to about it. I thought I was going crazy, and I would just kind of stuff that aside and drown it in the alcohol. And that didn't work out very well, Kevin, at all.
it
Um,
never seems to. Go
Imagine that.
figure. Go
Yeah.
figure. Foreign
And then
substance
it
that
wasn't until
alters your
like,
brain doesn't help. Hmm.
yeah, and then it wasn't until I was, what was I, like early mid 20s, that I finally sobered up. I had like an amazing miraculous experience where, after putting my young daughter in harm's way, and the police were involved, it was really bad, all that. The next 2 days later, I came home and my entire place was like emptied, with my wife at the time had taken my child to another province and had left us. And then I got down on my knees, Kevin, and I just prayed and prayed for help. I'm like, just someone help me. And I was bawling and crying and bawling and crying, like I need help with my addictions, my alcoholism, and all that. And from that point forward, I had never had an addiction since. It wasn't easy to stay sober though. I didn't don't kid me on, like, but I never had a craving or anything like that. But I wanted to stay sober, so I did whatever I had to do to stay sober. And I checked myself into a rehab prevention course program. I went to Alcoholics Anonymous. I did the steps like 6 times. I started sponsoring people at recovery houses and you name it, on and on, and just delved into the literature and the meetings and everything to do with Alcoholics Anonymous, and the pro and anything I had to do to stay sober. And now it's been over 17 years.
I
So
was
it'll be
just going to
18,
ask, how long has it been? 17
yeah,
years that you've been
it'll be
sober?
18 years this summer. So
Good
it's
for
pretty
you.
exciting. Yeah.
Congratulations. As you know, my brother was an alcoholic and had just started to get his life together when cancer took him in '09. And he
Right.
now comes to me. Hi, Pat. Comes to me all the time.
Yeah,
Of
keep
course,
it
he's here as soon
up.
as I mention his name. Hi, buddy.
And your dad, yeah.
And my dad. Wow, dad. Woo!
I know he was there early.
That's
Yeah,
that's
I felt him right
special.
away.
It's
And
funny. We got all kinds of people watching, Ken, and just some of the comments from people when you mentioned how tough Winnipeg was. And Robin Sowers, who grew up
yeah,
in Winnipeg, and she says, "Yep, grew up in Winnipeg, and it's absolutely like that." Melissa Cameron's watching. Hello, Melissa. Winnipeg, be rough. So we have a lot of
though, I'm
people
really
from Winnipeg. You know what it is? There's a lot of people, keyword, from Winnipeg.
well. Most people there, they call it lifers. They stay there and that's fine. Like if that's what they want to do, nothing against them, it's fine. But a lot of people don't escape Winnipeg or leave Winnipeg.
They don't escape it. It's there. I
I
used to
gotta be
have to
careful
go
because
there once a
I
month.
love, I love the people. Like the people there are great, and that's why they call it friendly Manitoba. It's
Yes.
just a really hardcore city, or at least it was for me. My experience growing up, and it is what it is. But I somehow survived and made it to Alberta, and
But
then that's when I found my sobriety. So
don't you think you wouldn't be? And I had this discussion with someone you know, Rod Peterson, who is
yeah.
also recovering alcoholic, and he's actually a sober coach and does interventions, etc., through
Hmm.
his through a Rod Peterson recovery company that he has. And we were discussing the fact, don't you think you wouldn't be who you are if it wasn't for what you went through?
Yeah, absolutely. Like because of that, I can relate to so many people right now that are going through addictions, that are going through stuff like the struggles, being bullied, you name it. I could just go on and on and on, and like really, and people that are really sensitives like me. Like I would say probably 90% of all my students that come to my courses, my channeling workshops, are empaths, are highly sensitive people, are people that like they didn't fit in. They're kind of like the black sheep of that, their area wherever they grew up, and then we all come together and we're all the black sheep. And I'm like, hey, welcome, hi everybody, welcome all you weirdos. We can be weird together and explore the spiritual stuff, and we
Let's
embrace it and
all be
welcome it.
weird.
Yeah, exactly, and really have fun. But like, it was really a rough city, and it taught me like life can be really dirty at times, like just like disgusting. A lot of like bad stuff can happen. I've had, I remember I was reminiscing the other day where I went kind of close to downtown when I was like maybe 8 years old. I rode my bicycle downtown because I wasn't that far, and this guy tried to like give me money for me to show my penis and molest me and like all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, get out of there. And I didn't even, but like so many like close calls like that could have
Oh yeah.
happened, and like that's what the kind of city it is where this stuff is, can happen. And so I learned to grow up really quickly and really fast, and it taught me a lot though. Like I don't
It did.
regret any of my past. Some people ask me, do you have any regrets? And I'm like, you know what, I wouldn't be where I am today if everything didn't happen
I
for me to be where
totally
I am.
believe that. All the good
Yeah,
stuff and all the bad stuff. You and I
yeah.
have talked about it many times. You're the one who taught me this. If everything isn't balanced, your universe is going to be wacko. And I say your universe because we each have our own universe system, I'll call it.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, if we're not balanced, there's an issue. We've got to be balanced.
And one of the biggest things is I can relate to people now that are going through this stuff.
Yes.
I can relate to these people that are going through relationship problems, or that have kids that are highly sensitive. They are highly sensitive, or they're like who do I talk to about this spiritual stuff and all that? And yeah, so it's just such a blessing to have gone through those hard times. And the interesting thing is I still go through hard times. Like life is
Yes.
like that, and I probably
Yes.
will all my life. And that's okay. It's good, bad, ugly, all that stuff. But I embrace it all. And when I go through tough times now, not before, but now, I choose to look at those hard times and go, how can I learn out of this? How can I grow out of this? Is there any healing or clearing I need to do so next time something like this similar happens, I don't get as triggered as much, or it doesn't upset me as much, or whatever. So I use everything as an opportunity. Everything is an opportunity, and it really is. So even
Yes.
growing up in hardcore Winnipeg, it's an opportunity to go, okay, that happened. Like stuff went down and stuff was happening, but it's okay. Like, how can I use this as an opportunity to grow and learn as a person and evolve as a soul, which is the bigger picture. And I didn't know that back then, but really it's not about, me in this one little sliver of time, like this lifetime. It's like what can I do in this one lifetime to grow and evolve the most as a soul? And how can I make the
Yes.
most out of this lifetime? Like really, that's what it's about for me. Like, because I think like long term, like over many, many, many lifetimes and evolving, like how much can I evolution can I do in this one lifetime? It's fabulous.
And I love the you always open up my eyes every time we talk, whether I want to admit it or not. You open up my eyes, and I have to let people know. Ken and I talk many times. Lots of times it has nothing to do with spirituality. It's just he's become a very good friend of mine, one of my best friends
Thank
on
you.
the planet. I can honestly say that. But every time we talk, you always say something, and I don't realize it until usually I hang up, and then my guides will be like, "Did you hear that?" And I'll be like, "Hear what?" It was Ken again. He was babbling, and then they'll bring up a specific item, and right now it's I like to look at the big picture. Most people, when they talk the big picture, they're thinking 10 years, 20 years. No, Ken's looking lifetimes, numerous lifetimes, which is such a cool thing to understand that this is but one. So we
Yeah,
have one bad lifetime over 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. It's like having one bad hour in a week.
right.
If you only have one bad hour in a week, holy crap, man, you're having a good freaking week.
Yeah, and if anyone's watching and wants to write something down, this literally changed my life. This is something that I live by. It's you ask yourself this question, and I'll get you to write this down. Where's the opportunity in this? When something good happens, ask yourself, where is the opportunity in this? When something not so good happens, you ask yourself, where is the opportunity in this? Because that question there, where like Kevin knows the struggles that I went through recently over the like, last 4 months that led to me basically heading to Bali and all this other stuff. Like there was some stuff that went down. It's like okay, I could play the martyr, I could play the victim, and I did for a while. Don't get me wrong, I did. But then I eventually, after a couple of weeks, I'm like, wait a second, Ken. Remember what you tell yourself and you ask yourself is where's the opportunity in this? Where can I how can I make something good positive come out of this? And that's what we've done. And
Yes.
it's so exciting to just every single time like something like this happens, because guess what, life's going to happen, but if you ask
Life
yourself
happens all the time.
where's the opportunity in this, you can actually turn it around into a positive thing.
Exactly. Before we get carried away, I want to make sure Graham, our good friend Graham from
Graham,
Minnesota, is tuning in. How you doing, buddy? Also, hi Sue from White Rock. Hopefully, hubby is doing well. Yeah, you know Sue and Mike, do you not?
absolutely, yeah, yeah, both of
Mike
them, yeah.
Mike had a heart attack not too long ago, and he was in hospital, but I believe he's out now. So, sending some good vibes your guys' way. So, you had kind of a I'm going to call it a come to Jesus moment, um,
Yeah, yeah.
for lack of a better word. And is that when everything clicked for you?
Well, when I checked myself in Alcoholics Anonymous, for me it was literally life or death. Like I was drinking a 2.6 of alcohol almost a day, daily drinker. Like it was bad, whiskey, everything. When I checked myself in Alcoholics Anonymous, they talk about seeking a higher power, and I knew that I couldn't go back drinking, so I had to just delve right in and do what I had to do to stay sober, because I would have literally been dead within a year. That's how bad my alcoholism had progressed. And so seeking a higher power, well, what does that mean? So I started checking out a whole bunch of different religions. I checked out, Buddhism and Catholicism and on and on and on, a whole bunch of different ones. And the one that I ended up settling on was Christianity. And so I found a Christian church and I started going to church, and I didn't just, like I wasn't just one of those Sunday kind of attendees. I actually ended up on the leadership team. So I was there like 5 to 7 times a week. I was part of the music team. I was in the parade. I was going door to door, recruiting people. I was like doing Bible studies, leading groups, all that, and this and that. So I was really like hardcore indoctrinated in the church, and it was good. Like again, I learned a lot. There's a lot of
Yes.
positives in there, and all that, but it was very constrained. And then one time, I think it was about 5 years in, I went and I seen this really amazing lady in Edmonton who had been doing it for like 60 years, this like mediumship stuff and all that. So I decided to take this course. And in this course at this lady's house, like there was all this crazy cool stuff, like this whole group of people. And the lady that I was partnering up was like channeling my dad and my grandfather and just giving me all these messages. I'm like, how do they do this? This is so crazy. Like, I would never be able to be like this. But I was fascinated, and I was enthralled, and I wanted to learn more. And then I went back and I told my pastors about this course that I took, this mediumship course. They're like, oh no, you don't do that. That's of the devil, and that's wrong and bad and blasphemy and all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh, what? Really? But it didn't, like, it felt right to me, but to them they told me
Yes.
no. So I stayed away from it because they told me not to do that, and that is, it could open up doors to other things, and it could be really dangerous and all this other stuff. And I was like, okay, they must know better. They've been doing this forever. So I listened to my pastors and I put that on the shelf for a while. But then after the 8 years, 7, 8 years, I was like, I started to like drift away from the church. And then after that, I went hardcore, like right into spirituality, because I knew that felt right. That felt, so like so good in so many ways. And I started like actually channeling on my own, and I had no one to teach me this stuff. I started like learning how to channel, but unfortunately at that time I was just channeling anything and everything. So I was letting things in that I didn't even know, because it wasn't me doing it purposely. I was just like ignorant.
You didn't know.
Isn't necessarily bad. Yeah, it's just when you
Yeah.
don't know. So I was ignorant. So I was like channeling all these things I shouldn't have been. And sometimes there was dark periods, Kevin, where I was like, having these things tell me to like break up these relationships or quit my job. Or, sometimes I was so depressed. There's almost times when I was like ready to kill myself. It was that bad because I had no one to help me through this, no one to talk to about this stuff. And then what I did though is I used it as an opportunity. Again, where's the opportunity in this? And I said, how can I
Oh, and you gotta, you
use
have, oh, you,
this
you've got
as an
to
opportunity?
excuse Ken because he's not at home. He's actually staying with a friend and their internet isn't the best. I think we got him back.
Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
So, yeah. So then I was like, well, where's the opportunity in all this darkness? And out of that, I started creating my own curriculum, my own like channeling curriculum. Started creating my own like followers and developing healing modalities and building my audience and people around the world. And I started like teaching people this stuff. And I was like, well, like I never, and this, don't get me wrong, like these dark days weren't just a few days. These were like years. One was talking over a decade where there was times like it was like up and down, but mostly down. And it's like trudging through the trenches and the darkness all by myself, trying to figure all this stuff out. And then I started like, okay, I need to come out of the light. I need to figure this stuff out. So I started to figure out how to channel, who to channel, when it's healthy to channel certain things, and make sure you're only channeling things of the light, and on and on and on. And it was like a phenomenal struggle, but out of that struggle came so much greatness. And that led me to where I am now. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. It's
That is so cool. That is,
amazing. Yeah.
this is why I wanted you on. I obviously have heard this story more than once, but every time I hear it, it's just one of those stories where I go, man, you could have gone in so many different directions. From being an alcoholic, I mean, you could have kept spiraling down, and I've seen it. With not with you, fortunately, but with other people, and it's not
Yeah.
a pretty sight. Um, you could have stayed with the church, and I mean, it would have been different. Would it
Would
have
have been
been bad?
different.
I don't know. It would have been different, but you chose spirituality. And I know for myself and lots of many others, we're damn happy you did.
Yeah.
Um, because obviously I wouldn't be doing what I do right now if I hadn't met you, what, 3 years ago, coming up on 3 years, was
Yeah.
July of 2020 that we actually met online, because of course most of your courses are through Zoom. Well, all your courses are through Zoom. um, when was it that you actually, I know you kind of touched on it there, that you decided, oh, I'm going to teach people this? When was it, that moment where you went, I don't want anybody else to go through what I just went through. I want to teach them better. When was
Yeah.
that? What was that
Well,
moment?
I remember it very distinctly. It wasn't like one exact moment, but it was a period of time. It was like a season of my life where I had, if you looked at my social media profiles, I'd put on like, I'm a Reiki master, Akashic Records trainer, a coach, a this, a that, and I had like a gazillion different titles, and I did, even though I had developed like channeling curriculum and other things, and then I remember the day though I was like, you know what? If there was one thing that would make a major difference in people's lives, what would it be? If there was one person, one thing that I needed in my early days of my spiritual awakening, what would I need? And it kept coming back over and over and over. And it's someone to teach me channeling. Because, in my opinion, channeling is the foundation to all spirituality. It is the number one thing. Like without channeling, how do you have anything? Like you can't
There's
really,
nothing.
you can go farther, but you can't go like super high levels of spirituality, in my opinion. So what I decided to do is strip all my social media profiles of all these other titles and everything else and say, okay, if there's going to be one thing I'm going to focus on, and it's one thing and one thing only, that's going to make the biggest impact in people's lives, it's channeling. It's teaching them how to channel really well at high levels. And so I put everything else aside, and this is what my jam. This is the main thing because, in my opinion, too, there's a void that needs to be filled where people specialize in this one thing so they can get those foundations, and then from that they can do all these other modalities and spiritual things with it. So it was such an important pivotal moment, and
So
I'm so glad I made that decision.
you've been doing this a long time. When did you start channelinginc.com? What year was that?
Yeah, so I my spiritual awakening happened in 2004, and in that's when I was kind of going through the trenches and all that stuff. And then I believe I had a Facebook groups and business page for like 10 years before that. And then I started, so I ran like my website. I ran my business without even a website for a number of years because it was free. Yeah, and that's
Yes.
okay. And there was no rush to do it. I wanted to make sure. And then I think I started Channeling Inc. a few years ago, like the
Okay.
actual website, channelinginc.com. So if anyone's watching and wants to know more about like what I have to offer, please go to channelinginc.com. Look, I do one-on-one sessions, I do intro classes, I do full certification workshops, channeling levels 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Each level comes with a 50 plus page manual, so it's extremely thorough, very comprehensive. It's always updating and adapting to the new modern, like new stuff that's coming through all the time. And yeah, I like look how it's changed Kevin's life.
And if you can change me, um, but what I really think is cool is you have, and you've used this words. I'm going to steal your words, and you concentrated on your core genius.
Yeah,
Um, I see a lot of people in spirituality. I'm going to use the word industry, and I hate using that. So I'm going to say spirituality community or
sure.
spiritual community, and they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing this and 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 this. I almost fell down that rabbit hole for a short while, and I was like, "How can I do? I can't. I
No,
want to concentrate on my one thing. My one thing is mediumship. I love talking to spirit guides.
and
I
you're
love
amazing at it.
talking to loved ones from the other side. Do you find it that people need to be more focused, more
Um,
specialized?
Honestly, for me, Kevin, is I went through this period of like 10 years where I was all over the place, trying this, trying that. And I think that's totally fine. Some people are really good at being able to do multiple things. And if that's your thing and you feel called to that, that's great. I decided to create like a niche where I'm
Niche?
going to specialize on this one thing. And like you said, what is my core genius? And let's find that one thing and let's just go for it all out. Because sometimes what happens is we get too scattered and then we're kind of like the jack of all trades, but specialty in nothing. And I wanted to really specialize in the one thing that's going to make the biggest impact in people's lives. And that's for them to have the foundation of channeling. So that's how I came
Exactly.
across it. But don't get me wrong, don't kid me. Like I was, doing a gazillion other things like bioenergy and other kind of healing modalities and different techniques and different this, different that. And that's how I learned how to find out what I liked and what I didn't like and what I wanted to specialize in.
Right. That which makes sense. Which makes
Yeah.
total sense. Um Now, holy crap, it's been almost 40 minutes, Ken. 35 minutes already. It just goes by way too quick when you and I start yakking. It's so funny because so many times I'll say, "Oh, I'm going to run upstairs. I'm going to do a Zoom call with Ken. I'll be 10 minutes." And Allison will look at me and go, "Yeah, see you in an hour and a half."
2
And
hours later.
2 hours, 2.5 hours later, I go
2
back
hours later, he comes down.
downstairs. It's we get going and it's just so it flows so naturally between us that yeah, um you've decided this is what you're going to do full time. You don't have a side job. This isn't a side job for you. This is what you do full time.
Yeah, absolutely. I worked really hard. Like, some people think I just got here by accident. I didn't. First of all, like 10, 15 years ago, I was really unhealthy. So I've been doing lots of healing work. I've been seeing other healers, doing my own self healing, on, and being very intentional about my healing work and my healing journey. So I can be a healthier human, healthier teacher, healthier practitioner, healthier influencer, whatever you want to call it. And at the same time, I've been busting my butt. Like, I used to work a full time government job. I was like raising my daughter full time as a single father. And what I was doing is, in the evenings and weekends, after I was tired of like, I'd be exhausted at work all day, I'd come home and I'd be working on my business. And then I would the next day work on my business. I'd have to, turn off the TV and work on my business, and at the same time raise my daughter and all that. And then the weekends I'd be working on my business. And then eventually I was able to get to a point, Kevin, where I was able to quit my full-time government job and do this full time. But it wasn't by accident. Like, it took a lot of work. And not just, my dad said, Ken, yes, work hard. That's really important. He also said, also work smart. Work hard and work
Work
smart. So
smart.
what I was doing was, I was like, okay, I can do this stuff, but how can I create curriculum? How can I create stuff that I can create a structure in place that can sustain me as a full-time career? And this is what I do all day, every day. Like, I teach people one-on-one channeling sessions during the week, and then the weekends and evenings I do my workshops, my interviews, and my other trainings and stuff like that. So yeah, this is what I do, and I love it. I love it.
And you can tell your passion behind it. You're a passionate guy about anything you do, but I have seen you many times, whether it be in a group setting through Zoom, live events. We were just at a expo. Was it last weekend? Weekend before last?
Yeah,
Weekend
two
before
weekends ago.
2 weekends ago. It never ceases to amaze me, and I love watching people. I'm a people watcher from way back. I just love watching people and their reaction to different things. And because I was helping you out, I was at the table, I was kind of explaining to people what you do in a one on one session, even though it's supposed to be only 15, 20 minutes. Ken can't tell time, by the way. Impossible to keep that man to 20 minutes. Just saying. um, but the reaction people have when they're finished a session with you, um, the look in their eyes, the emotion they show. How do you how do you relate to so many different types of people? What's the key to that?
So I want to make it very clear, like, in this lifetime, when we die and we cross over, we don't take these material things with us, these other things with us, all this other stuff that we accumulate. What we do take with us, though, is the connections we make with others. These
Yes,
soul connections is what really matters. So you mentioned earlier, Kevin, how, yeah, I don't just think, like, long term, 10, 20 years from now. I think long term, lifetimes from now. So when I'm meeting with someone, I'm creating a soul connection that is going to last for lifetimes, plural.
plural.
And so what I do, there's a couple of strategies when I meet with people, and I use the word strategies. It's not like I'm doing it because I care for them, because I love them, and I just really want them to succeed and thrive in their ventures in their life. And what I do is I work with my spirit guides and their spirit guides, and I teach all this in my workshops on how to connect with them at the deepest possible level and how to relate to them, so I know what's going on, because I've gone through a lot of these struggles, as we mentioned earlier. And then I figure out really very quickly where they're at, and then I can kind of like lead them up, lead them up, lead them up. If I'm like here, if they're here and I'm here, and I say, come on, it's too big of a gap for them to bridge, and they can't relate to that. So I was taught this very strategically in my life skills coaching program: meet people where they're at. And I do it
Yes.
because I care. And I like, even when I worked for the government, within the first 3 months, I was one of the top facilitators in the entire province. And my manager, the owner of the company, is like, Ken, how are you doing this? Like, the people just love you. And it's like, because I care and because I can relate, and I get where they're coming from. And I really do. I want to see people succeed and thrive. And I would say probably 90% of all my business comes from referrals. So you know you're doing something right when most of your business comes from referrals. And it's just such an honor to be able to touch people's lives in a positive way, and not just a little bit, but like dramatically watch them transform in front of my eyes, like within a very short period of time, 6 months to a year. It's like seeing a flower just bud and bloom and blossom, and I'm like, whoa, look at you go. And then they're off to the races, and they're taking what I taught them and doing amazing things with it, and changing their life, changing their family destiny, their own destiny, and their relationships. I love it.
You know what's really cool, and you mentioned it just at the end there, how cool it is when you can see that you've done something to help somebody else's life. I've had that privilege now.
Yeah.
In my past things I've done, I've sold cars, I've sold furniture, I've sold. It's fun. It makes some good dollars behind it. But I'm sorry, selling you a car isn't life changing. It really isn't. Um, except when except if you're Ken and you buy an Audi Q8, then apparently it's life changing.
Oh, hallelujah. It actually is one.
um, but doing what I do, I've had a few people who have messaged me. Usually, what happens is I'll have 2 or 3 sessions with them, and I'll be like, "Look, I need you to go and learn to do what I do," which is the worst business plan on the planet, by the way. I'm going to teach you. I want you to learn. I'm not going to teach you. I want you to learn to do what I do so you don't have to come to me anymore. When I first started this, and Ken remembers a conversation I had with him really early on because I was really pissed off about something. And I was like, how could this happen? Like, oh, and now I have recommended more people to go see Ken Lewicki and to take his courses than I can even think how many I've done. And it's funny because every once in a while I'll get somebody going, well, do you get a commission on that? And I'll be like, absolutely not. And even if Ken offered one, I would have to tell him no, because it goes against everything in my soul that's supposed to be done. Um, I do it because like Ken just finished saying, I truly want to help these people. And I've actually had people after they took Ken's courses message me and say, Kevin, I just want you to know how much you have changed my life. And I get emotional because, damn, that's an amazing thing to have said to you. You
Mm,
have had it said to you more times, obviously. You've been doing this a whole lot longer. You have trained so many
yeah.
people. I hope you never quit. I hope you never stop doing what you're doing. I can't see why you would do it, because we need more people like a Ken Lewicki in the world. And I don't say that because I'm your friend, and I don't say that to try to blow smoke up your butt. I say that because every once in a while, and I'm going to kind of rant here for a sec, every once in a while, because it's my show and I can, you meet somebody in life where they're just a genuine soul. Ken is that genuine soul. I'm sure there's people. I unplugged my. I
It's because you're ranting.
ranted and I moved my hand. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to
That's
try
good.
to plug this back in as we're talking. Why won't that go back in? I think I wrecked it.
Uh-oh.
Uh oh. Anyway, I'm going to put that aside and I'll just pull this closer.
We can hear you
Um,
just fine.
every once in a while, you meet somebody in your life that is genuine. That's you, Ken. That's what you are to me, and I thank you for that.
Mhm.
Whew, there we go. Um, where's what? It's we've only got 15 minutes, buddy. It's not near an hour is never enough time. What's next for Ken? You're moving. I know we talked about you moving to Bali.
Yeah, I'm heading to Bali. Nothing's changing with business. So a couple things on that is one is that um, I'm just broadcasting from a different location. That's all. So when I moved from Edmonton to Calgary, just broadcasting from a different location. When I moved from Calgary region to Canmore, just broadcasting from a different location. So nothing's really changing in that sense. Um, I'm just heading to Bali, doing. It's going to be everything's at going to stay the same. I got very clear messages from my spirit guides. Just keep everything the same. Just focus on it. Don't change anything yet. However, are you ready for this, Kevin? At the same time, it's actually really good for companies to change and evolve. And my company has been changing and evolving every single month, every single year for many, many, many years. And it will continue to change and evolve in a good, healthy way because every business has to evolve or it goes out of business. It's just the way it is. And I'm going to embrace it when I get direction, when I'm in Bali to, maybe modify this, do this. I'm not getting any yet, but when I will, I'll honor that and I'll go from there. But right now, it's just keep everything the same, just broadcasting from a different location. And I have lots of like long-term plans, bigger plans, stuff like that. So I'll get more guidance on what to pursue when I'm there. But everything's staying the same. So if you would like to book a one-on-one session, you can do that at my channelinginc.com website. You can also attend my upcoming Channeling Level 1 workshop coming up in March. So yeah, everything's still the same. No big deal.
That is so cool. I actually, I've got channeling.com up here instead of channelinginc.com.
Yes,
I should probably
channelinginc.com.
fix that because that is not what your website is. It's actually channelinginc.com.
.com.
We will fix that and save it, and then we'll put it back up there, and boom, look at that. It's not it. That's it. There we go. Channelinginc.com.
Yeah,
So
and it's exciting though because like I'm looking at my curriculum before I go, and I'm like, oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can do like massive group healings and stuff like that, and I feel like I'm gonna be doing some really cool like stuff that's gonna be up. To bring in the masses to like help the masses really like start to evolve at much quicker higher levels because I already do this in my workshops. Like if you take any of my workshops from this point forward, you will be receiving attunements, you will be receiving activations, you will be receiving healing in the group. I do mass group healings, mass activations, it's stuff like that
that is
because
so
you
cool.
need that to help you channel at much more higher levels. You need the infrastructure in place to do that, so it is included, but why not just do it to the masses that people, if that's all they want, they maybe don't want
Oh, I see what
to,
you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
they're not ready yet to, jump in full on to the channeling stuff, but they want healings, they want attunements, they want spiritual upgrades, they want activations. Okay, bring it on. Let's do it. So
That
things like that
is
are
that
coming.
is
They're on the
exciting.
docket. Yeah.
If you could go back and change one thing with what you've done, um, with your spiritual business, what would that one thing be?
I would say just I would say careful who I partner up with, who I work with, who I trust in my healing, who I take workshops from and trainings from. I wish everyone out there had, everyone's greatest intention in mind. Some don't. I had to kind of learn that the hard way, and it took me a long time to figure that out and learn that. Oh, not everyone in the spirituality industry is of the light, and it's like that for every industry. So I'm not. It's not just this industry. It's everyone, like every possible,
Exactly.
the law industry, the education, and I could go medical, I could
Well, you
just
can
go on,
get
right?
good doctors and bad
Right,
doctors. You
exactly,
can
and
get
you
good
name it.
dentists,
So
bad dentists.
so it's the same here, and I wish I wasn't so naive, but like again, because I had to go through that, now I can teach my students this and I do. I
Thank
full
you.
out teach this, and I do it on purpose for them. Hey, by the way, watch out for this. Watch out for these. These are all red flags. If you hear about any of these,
Yes.
come across any of these, they're warning signs. Just stay away. Listen to your spirit guides. I'm teaching you how to channel your guides to let you know, all this other warning signs, and so they'll let you know. But it's like when someone's brand new, a lot of people come into this industry naive, thinking like everyone's
Oh
love and
yeah.
light, and a lot of us are. Most of us are, but you get those once in a while. Some that aren't, and that's okay. That's okay. Let's just. I feel honored now to be in a position where I can pass the the hard lessons I had to learn on to
I
my
think
students. Hopefully, they don't have to make it a be as go through those stumbling blocks I had to.
I think the most important thing you taught me in that aspect of spirituality is if somebody says, I'm the only one that can do this for you, don't walk away. Run.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that should be a huge warning flag. And I thank you for that, because it has happened more than once, unfortunately. Um, just like me, when I hear someone say, "Oh, I have a gift, and I'm going to share my gift," I get this hackles in my back, because it's really not a gift. Everybody can channel. Can't I mean, if Ken can teach a 55-year-old at the time, year old fat guy how to channel, he can pretty much teach anybody how to channel. Has there ever been like somebody that you just, no, sorry, you can't, go away, you can't channel?
For the most part, everyone can channel. I get like there's like the odd maybe 1% of people where like, okay, no, you actually need some some additional clearing, or like they have some blocks that are
You need
literally
some
like
work.
blocking them, or they need some full out healing on certain aspects. What I've been able to do is through channeling, I've been able to identify that we're made up of way more than just this physical body that we call like, our body. Like I would say
The
90, 95, 98% of our body is actually like our life is actually spiritual, non-physical. And so there are some aspects sometimes that if they're not functioning at an optimal place, it's going to be very difficult for someone. But I have the ability to be able to heal that, and through again medical mediumship and healing modalities that I've developed and learned over the years. And I teach that in my level 4, by the way, in case you're wondering how does Ken do all this crazy cool healing stuff. I'll teach you all that. So I'm one of those teachers where I don't have this scarcity mentality where I'm like, oh, I got to keep this stuff to myself because someone might take it and like, I'm like, no, no, no. I'm actually the opposite of that. I want to teach you everything I know. So if you ever see Ken doing anything really cool, like I'm doing this, I'll teach you this. Well, what about that? Well, I'll teach you that as well. What about this? I'll teach you this as well. I'll teach you everything I know. I don't have that like scarcity mindset. I want you to learn all this stuff. I want you to
yes,
take this stuff, stand on my shoulders, and do even greater things with what I teach you. That's what I want for all my students, because I might not be able to reach the people that you can, but you can go out there and change the world in the way that you're meant to. Find your purpose, and your purpose is, yes, plural, because we have more than one purpose for being incarnated on this
yes,
planet.
thank you.
And then go out there and do what you're really meant to do with this lifetime, and touch people's lives in a real profound way, using channeling as that foundation to go ahead and do this. So it's just, there's no limit to what you can do when you can channel at really high levels.
That is so cool. Graham has a great question about you moving. Will your workshops be at different times, since you'll be moving a few different zones over a few different
Everything is
zones?
staying the same, and I will be pulling all nighters. Bali is literally the opposite side of the world, so I'll just get up like my Australian clients, my Australian friends that take my workshops, and I'll be getting up at 3 a.m. or whatever, and I'll be pulling an all nighter, and that's just the way it is. It's okay.
I,
It'll,
I
like I
believe your
said,
all nighters would start at midnight. I think we figured it out. It would go from midnight until eight
yeah,
o'clock
it's
in the
around
morning or
1-ish at
something.
midnight. It's crazy
Yeah,
hours, but it's
yeah,
fine. I'm
yeah.
fine with it. Like I know that it's going to change. It's going to evolve, and in some ways, again, I'm going to ask myself, what, Kevin? Where's the
Opportunity.
opportunity in this? Yes, where's the opportunity in
Exactly.
this to create, to push me to evolve in a way that I can, again, reach masses and help people, because my mission statement is to make this world a better place by teaching people how to channel. And imagine how much better this world would be if people actually followed their spirit guides guidance and did what they're really meant to do with this lifetime. So there
Oh,
are lots of other ideas that I have that I'm going to be working with my spirit guides as to, what's going to help progress me into that next season of my life once I get there and arrive there, and where I'm going to go, like the future of channelinginc.com, and where does this company go from here, and how can I make it so I can reach even more people to fulfill my mission, which is changing the world by channeling.
that is so cool. Oh, goosebumps. Satara A. Masters says, "Hey, my dear old friend and brother Ken, love and light,
Yay!
XXXX."
Aw.
It's funny because I read through comments as we're going, and I haven't said everything that people have been saying. Lori Parks, she says, you're lovely, Ken." Um, Melissa Cameron, "I'd never have delved into spirituality if it wasn't for Ken." So it's not just me that you've touched, obviously. There's thousands and thousands of others. Whew, goosebumps. Holy cracking doodles.
I know.
Uh, that was crazy. I don't know what that was. Um, we've only got a couple minutes left. If there's one piece of advice you could give to somebody who is, I'll say, dipping their toe into spirituality, what would you tell them?
Really simple. One is take formal training with channeling. Again, in my opinion, channeling is the foundation to everything else.
Yes.
Yes, you can go and take all these other different things, but when you have found channeling as your foundation and you've taken actual like formal training, then when you do take other stuff, that you have the ability to channel your guides, your spirit guides, at really high levels. And then when you're learning this other stuff from other people, other practitioners, other teachers, you can be checking and validating and verifying and making sure that nobody is 100% perfect at any of this or 100% accurate at any of this. But with you and your ability to be able to channel your guides, you can kind of flesh out the stuff that isn't like in resonance with you, and just focus on the stuff that is. And you can do that with channeling. But if you don't have that channeling as the foundation, it's a lot more difficult. And then you could get blindly led down different paths or believe things that sound cool, sound neat, but aren't necessarily accurate. Because there's a lot of myths out there in spirituality that just aren't. They're like, that's why I do kind of myth busting. Um, and the other piece of advice, it's not really related to channeling, but this one quote changed my life. Where one of my mentors back in Edmonton, he said to me, he said, "Ken, never make any major life decisions in a heightened emotional state."
Yes.
And that's one. If you're writing anything down, you have a pen and paper handy, write this one down. Never make any major life decisions in a heightened emotional state. And he said, "Ken, always wait until you've calmed down, and it could be the next day or a week later. And if you still want to make that major life decision, then at least you're making it from a more calm state rather than a triggered state or heightened emotional state." And that one quote literally saved me in so many relationships, so many jobs, so many
Oh my
times in my
goodness.
life.
Yes.
Yeah, never make any major life decisions in a heightened emotional state. That's a big one for me.
It's words to live by. Words to live by. Ken, thank you so much for taking the hour, spending it with us, with me,
Yeah,
giving me the opportunity to um, delve into who Ken is, and I really appreciate it. Um, we will obviously stay in touch. This Saturday coming up, is it? Yeah, this Saturday coming up at what time?
yeah, so it's local. It's going to be mountain time in Calgary, from 11 to 2. We are going to have a heading to Bali party, and you're welcome to show up in person in Calgary. It's at a buffet. Please go to my website, channelinginc.com, for more info, or my Facebook business page, and you can see all the details, the dates, the time, the location. And if you would like to tune in, if you're not local, you can also tune in online from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So during that 1 hour period, we will be having a Zoom conference. And you're welcome to also attend that way. There's no cost if you want to attend in person. You could just show up and say hi and then leave. Or if you want to participate in the buffet, it's I think only like $20 or something like that
Whatever
for
it
all you
is.
can eat lunch buffet. It's just kind of one final hurrah before we head out, and just if anyone wants to come in and just share some hugs and reminisce, or just hang out before we head out to Bali. It's going to be a blast. So everyone's welcome. It's open to the public, and you can come in person or online.
That sounds awesome. Ken, thank you again. We will be in touch. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to put you back in the waiting room, but I'll be back to you, okay?
Yep.
Excellent. What a fast hour. Just over. No, it's 6 minutes, 6 seconds before the hour's up. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This was a special one for me just because Ken is such a big part of what I do. So I appreciate everybody that's tuned in. If you are looking to get a session with me, I am back doing sessions again. As you can see on the bottom of the screen, I only charge $75 for an hour. If you only want a half hour, it's $40. You can go to my Facebook page that you're probably watching this on, or you could be watching it on YouTube or Twitter. But go to Kevali Channeling Facebook and click the book now. You'll be able to see my availability. Click a time, even if it's not the one you want, then we can kind of figure out a time that works for you. Till next week. Next week, we will be having another guest next week. We have a few guests in a row now. I know everybody really likes to do the mini readings, but I kind of had let off, and so I need to get caught up with my guests. So next week, the 6th, I will have a guest. His name is Jason with Divinity Expo Events. So tune in then. Till then, have yourself a great week, and I hope to see you during the week at some point. Talk to you all then.